So today on the Income Flip podcast, I've got my brother from another mother, Andy Bui here. Andy, welcome to the Income Flip podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolutely, absolutely. I've been wanting to get you on here for a long time. I've been watching your success from afar, stalking you online, and I think it's time, right? I think it's time I expose you to the broader community, and man, I love everything you're doing. So let's give everybody listening right now some context on you. I always love to unpack the story of the entrepreneur, the story of the real estate entrepreneur. You know, how did you get into this wonderful world of real estate investing and wealth building and what I call the income flip, right? When your assets and your businesses work harder than you do. Like,
Yeah.
talk us through that.
So I've had the luxury, the blessing of my father, who was in the mortgage industry since the 70s and 80s. So throughout my whole childhood, I had always been exposed to some form of real estate. Now he was on obviously the lending side. And what really intrigued me about the investing world is when I graduated from college, I had my first job and, a couple of jobs after that. And it wasn't until that time where I was at the top of my career. I was managing a team of many engineers, and from the outside, it looks like, oh, this guy's got it made. He's making good money. He's got this nice, beautiful townhome in a really good area. And it wasn't until one night I came home and I was standing in front of my home and I see through the window my wife is cooking dinner, my little toddler's playing on the floor. And I realized that if I stopped going to the office 9 to 5, then I couldn't have any of this. Like that, owning this beautiful picture in time was dependent on this external factor. So I realized at a moment I had to do something to ensure that I can continue having this without relying on a source of income, hence the idea of passive income. And the funny thing is, I was searching for investment clubs or networking, folks in the area, and that's when I ran upon your group, Grid, in Reston. And I remember you had this presentation, you have like a monthly topic. So I just came by to see what's learning, I was
You're like,
learning,
who are these people? What are they all about, right?
just learning and kind of how this whole investing thing works. After a couple of times I came over, I remember we were chatting for the very first time and I asked you, like, I listen to Bigger Pockets. There are people are doing things all over the country. People invest in the Midwest, cash flow, equity. What do you recommend? And you gave me the best advice, which was just invest here. Like everything here is so good. Like why would you want to invest anywhere else? So then that really got me thinking. I'm like, all right, but the mortgage is really high and the rent just can barely keep up. So how am I
You're
going to
like,
make
how
this
is
work?
how is that even possible? Yeah. And by the way, those words were spoken to you from a practitioner that had gone outside the market, had
Yeah.
experienced what it was like to be outside this market, learned about the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's ways of making money in those markets, but it's not the place you start. And potentially you never even need to go there, right? There
Yeah.
is so much opportunity in our backyard.
Yeah, so that really got me thinking of how to solve the problem. And I know there were several ways to go about it, but I just wasn't sure at that time. So then I had this radical idea, and I asked myself, all right, who are my closest friends that are really doing things, that are really investing, making the numbers work? I'm just going to invite them all into the room together. We're going to go have dinner. And we're just going to go one by one down the line. What are you doing? How much money do you make? What are you investing in? What are your returns? What's your net, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't until I got to just one individual. I've only met him for like one or two times before. And he says, I do a room by room model in this area. And thinking about it, I thought like, because when I bought my first property, I was already doing that. This is back in 2013 when you had to find your tenants on Craigslist. It was the creepiest, scariest thing.
Yeah, are they a murderer? Like, is this for real? Am I gonna get scammed?
Yeah, yeah. So back then, I was already doing it, but I didn't think about doing it to like as a business model to scale. So then when he told me that he was making over 1,000 net, that really got me thinking like, wow, you can actually scale this into a larger operation. And I'm well aware of the market and the numbers you can make. And so then I started looking at properties that can fit this specific business model. And what I realized was, wow, there is a huge gap in the market for these specific type of tenants, because you have the long-term tenants, which is your general mom and pop renting a whole house to a family, and then you have the short-term market that rents for weekly, a couple of days at a time. But there's nothing for the market in between, which are, because we live in a very transient area, you have people coming in for a contract, 3 months, 6 months, and they don't want to commit to a year lease.
Yeah,
But
for
they
those that are listening, we're in the Washington D.C. metro market, so it's an affluent market. There's a lot of people that come in for different types of jobs, right, in this market, whether it's data centers or teacher, college professors, and so there is this transient aspect. Obviously, government contractors that are coming in and out. So this model works really well in this market, and it goes back to something that I always say: there's a way to make money in every market. You just got to figure out what that is. And in our market currently, at today's interest rates, at today's prices, this is a way to make it work. Right? Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, and I realized that your average tenant that lives in this, well, that comes in this area, like you had mentioned, like flight attendants, teachers, contractors. I get so many of these people all the time, and they're really looking for something less than a year, because if they were to rent a place, they have to commit at least a year. So they want something less because they're only here for a couple months, but they don't want to live in a hotel every single day for a couple months, because that's just, the price is astronomical if you once you do it. And then if you do Airbnb, that's not
Also
affordable.
astronomical. Yeah.
So they want a place that they can feel like, oh, this is my home. I can cook here. I'm welcome to use the yard. So we invested in homes and created these spaces just for these people. And the funny thing is, the term these days is called co-living, right? I think that term wasn't coined until maybe 2020, but we've been doing co-living for years.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I said the Hispanic community has been doing co-living forever, right? Just like,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, forever. I mean, all of my tenants were co-living, except the model was different, right? Like they were getting a blanket lease, and then there was a leader typically renting out the rooms and
Yeah.
maybe making the arbitrage, and this is flipped, landlords renting out the rooms, and so there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's a lot of fear around people that are potentially doing this. Andy, do you want to talk to that a little bit? Like, what were some of your initial fears and maybe misconceptions that you were able to work through?
So the thing is, when I first got my first rental back in 2013, I had been studying this co-living business model since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 years of data of stalking Craigslist to see how many people were listing these places up and what the demand was, and seeing and tracking these listings to see how long they would be on the market and then when they would pull off. And this is like such a manual way to go about it. But we have better technology tracking the metrics. But back then, it was me hitting refresh, every single day for this one particular neighborhood or one particular submarket. And I'm like, oh wow, I see at least 12 ads pop up every day. So there must be a huge demand. I see the same 12 ads get off market within about a week or two. So I knew the demand was really high. And when I posted up my first ad, I got so many hits. I'm like, wow, this is great. So yeah, there wasn't any fear going in, because I did my homework 2 years prior. I'm pretty at risk averse. So
Sure. There's some wisdom in that, right? You were testing the market ahead of time.
yeah,
You had
yes,
a hypothesis, and then you kind of tested and looked and analyzed, which is important. And then it validated the hypothesis, and you're like, okay, I feel fairly confident this is going to work.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
on my first property, I mean, even if I didn't get anyone, I was still fine. You know, I could still pay the mortgage. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, it was like very little downside risk, but a lot of upside if it did work.
Exactly.
Totally get it.
Yeah, and it worked. It worked so well.
You know what? What's interesting, Andy, is just the
Yeah.
wisdom in that is I always say, what's the worst case?
Right.
Can you
Right.
live with a worst case? If you can, then okay, there's really no risk or very little risk, or you minimize the downside of your risk. If the answer is like no, I can't live with that down like with the worst case, then you probably shouldn't do it. At least not when if you don't have any resources to pull from if it does go south. So
Yeah. Exactly. So I didn't. It didn't matter to me either way. I was going to buy this house regardless,
yeah,
and if it worked, great. If it doesn't, you know, I still have a house, so not a big deal. But it ended up working very well to a point where in 2019 during the pandemic, when interest rates hit the 2%, I told my wife, we're going all in right
oh,
now. The rates are
so
just
good.
so good. You know, it was so good. And I knew, I was just looking history, right? Back in
Yeah,
2013, when it hit 3% for the first time, I said, well, this never happened before. That's why we have to buy now. And then 6 years later in 2019, and it hits two, I'm like, I've never seen this in the history of lending.
yeah,
So
crazy, right?
yes, it
Oh,
was absolutely insane. And I told my wife, we are stopping all retirement contributions. We're going all in on
yeah,
this room by room business model. And then we got our second home. And then our third home, like literally like 2 months after that, right? And the funny thing is, I wanted to do one really, really well. So it was kind of like a proof of concept thing. And I was so excited when I first got this property and we had it filled in under 2 weeks. The whole thing filled in under 2 weeks. I was like, oh my God, this is like the craziest. And they're all like 700 credit score. They all had like six-figure salaries. I was like, what? Like some of these guys were making more than I did.
was that was where? What location was that? Was that
That was
Sterling?
that was in downtown Herndon.
Herndon,
Herndon is
downtown Herndon.
good. Downtown Herndon. You can walk to like all the supermarkets, all the stores. And
Sure.
we're like, this is amazing. And the funny
Townhouse
thing,
or single family house?
it was a single family.
Okay. Okay.
And then
Do you only do it with single family, or do you do it with townhouses as well?
we do it everything, apartments, townhomes, single families, as long as the numbers work out. It's all about the numbers, really.
Do you have
So
a
you can
preference?
get,
Is it just all numbers, or do you have a preference for the asset?
I have a strong preference to single families
Got
because
it.
you can do so much more with a single family versus a townhome. And there's only so many bedrooms in a townhome, and
Yeah.
there's so many parking spaces in a townhome.
Yeah.
With a
Yeah.
single family, you can carve out additional parking. We've created an entire parking lot before in a backyard of a home.
Oh wow.
Yeah, to accommodate extra vehicles and
Well, one of my limiting beliefs from doing this was always like we have so many HOAs where we live in Herndon and Reston and
yeah.
Sterling. Um, but it sounds like that has not been an issue. As long as you understand the rules, you understand the market, that has not been an issue up until this point. Is that
It
correct?
has never been an issue for
Okay.
us.
So there's a
Um,
limiting belief that can get squashed. Of course, like every neighborhood varies, right? Depends on
yes.
who your neighbor is too, I'm sure, right? Do you do anything to kind of make the neighbors feel better? Do they know who you are? Do you keep yourself anonymous?
Yeah, actually, every time we get a property, we introduce ourselves to the neighbors. We make sure that, hey, by the way, guys, this is what we're doing. They're just working professionals. Don't worry, there aren't any parties. Like we don't, they're past that age, you
Got it.
know. They're no kid, no college kids, like partying with 50 other kids on the weekends. That doesn't happen. They're just working professionals. They come here, they do their job. They just want a place to sleep, and they want it quiet. And
And you introduce yourself as I would assume like the property manager for that. Is that
yes,
correct? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you own a portfolio of assets that are doing this as co-living, but you
Yes.
also do third-party management for
Right.
people around this. So the other limiting belief, right, is, oh my God, 5 people in a house. How do I do the leases? How do I collect the money? How do I? And I would imagine with today with technology, it's so much easier. But walk us through tactically how you do that. And I'm sure you still get a lot of phone calls. Like help me understand the good, and help me understand the bad
Yeah. So then
or
when
the
we
hard.
first started, there was actually no company that catered to this market. Nothing at all. There was no technology, nothing. So I was collecting Venmo, PayPal's, and Zelles, which was awful, right?
Terrible, terrible.
Hey, you start somewhere.
Yeah.
But then as technology evolved, I found only one company that created a platform that tailored to room by room rentals. Only one.
Wow. Wow.
And we signed up immediately. And the funny thing is, even to this date, we are their largest, client. We have so many people on their platform, and we've encountered bugs that they've never seen before.
You need an owner stake in this business,
Oh,
right?
this is such a great business. Yes, we
Yeah.
love this platform.
That's cool. That's very cool.
But yeah,
Um, so how many people do you have? You have like 100 people on the platform. How many people do you have on the platform currently?
we have about 150
Wow.
on the platform right
Wow.
now.
Wow. Dude, Andy, congratulations, dude. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
all within about 5 years.
As a third party manager, is it similar to like a regular property manager? 10% is what you're collecting? 8, 10?
Yes, I collect about 10% of
Okay.
gross,
Okay.
and then we obviously collect a placement fee for the
Okay.
tenant.
Collect per tenant. Is it like first month, half month, 3/4 month?
Half month and
Okay.
collected once per year for that one particular unit.
Okay. The other thing that comes to mind for anybody listening is okay, instead of having, let's say, 3 people in a house, now I've got 6 people in a house, or 7 people in a house. The wear and tear, I would imagine, might be more on the washing machine, dishwasher, fridge. Um,
Hmm.
so you need to have good vendor relationships
Yes.
or partnerships. I would imagine that's part of it. Are they on the platform as well? Can you communicate through the platform? Or is the platform just for money? Or is the platform also for management of the asset?
For both. The
Oh, wow.
platform keeps track
Cool.
of all the tenants. You can submit maintenance request tickets. I can deploy those tickets and dispatch it to my contractors. We do lease signings on the platform as well. So
Oh,
everything's
awesome.
digital. Yeah, it's a great platform. You can chat with the tenants to keep all the conversations geared toward that one property. You can send like property reminders and it'll blast it to all the tenants on the platform. So it's without systems, there's just no way to manage as many people,
Yeah.
especially with all the properties and across. We have currently 53 all across Northern Virginia
Mm.
and over 150 people. So systematizing is the only way to go. I found the breaking point being 32 tenants. Once you hit the number 32, that's the magic number where you need to have a system. There's no way to manage all of those people.
Yeah. And you've got to train them on using the platform and the system, right?
Yeah,
That would be a big piece of it.
but
And
that's your
everybody today is used to using platforms to pay for stuff. So
yeah,
luckily, that's the low friction there, versus let's say 8 years ago, high friction to try to get people onto some of these platforms.
yeah.
Um, what's the hardest part, Andy, of your job
The
currently?
hardest part is, let me think now. That's a good question. There are a lot of hard pieces to this one is well, there are a lot of pieces in general because I jokingly tell my friends I am babysitting adults because sometimes they need a little babysitting, right? So, some things that are common sense aren't so common. But
Yeah,
overall, luckily, we have really, really good people. Our platform does the background checks, does credit checks. So they're all great credit. They all have solid jobs. So solid people in general. They're not the type that, trashes your home or anything. I rarely have a scenario where I need to go in and just redo the whole house or anything like that. There's never been that scenario, in fact. Overall, we have really good. That's the benefit of living in this area is you have so many industries, so many people that are employed in good jobs, and it attracts the really good people in this area.
As I think this through for anybody that's interested in doing this, and creating a business around this, I think you probably have to get good at also matching the different people with people, right?
Yes, yes,
Um, which is interesting because that means that you have to do a little behavioral assessment. Like, I can't match this person with this group because of whatever, maybe age, demographic, gender, interest, which is interesting, right? Because you need everybody to get along.
yes.
I can imagine people are hard. You might get some crazies in there every now and then.
I've had only out of the 650 people that have gone through in and out within our properties, I've only encountered two crazies.
That's low. That's awesome.
I do an extremely thorough process of vetting our tenants. It's like beyond what normal people do. So not only do we do credit, background, like we call people like their references. I stalk their social medias. I check what they do on LinkedIn or what they post. If there's anything out of the blue, then it's going to be a no for me. But you really have to be super thorough. Otherwise, like you had mentioned, they're just going to be crazy people, dirty people, people that leave their trash and never clean up after themselves. You're going to run those people. But if you do a thorough job of vetting them, you don't have this problem. And one of the key things I do is I wait outside when they pull up. And the reason why I do that is I always want to check their car.
You're a car guy, Andy, too. Like, I know you. You're like, you know, how many cars do you have? You got a lot of cars.
I actually only have three.
Okay, okay.
But I check the inside of their car to see if it's dirty or not.
Yeah, I would. Yes, I
Yes,
can.
that's the thing. It's like the way that a tenant keeps their car is the same way they're gonna treat their home.
Yeah,
So
it's funny because I would always tell my wife, she's so much better now, but I would be like, dirty car, dirty mind. It's like
yes, yes.
you're kind of scattered. Like, you got to get that. You got to clean it. You got to keep it clean, organized. You can tell a lot about somebody with
Just their car.
their car. Yeah, 100%. Some of you listening right now are like, oh shit. Yeah, clean your car, right? This
Yeah.
is this is your wake up call. Clean your car. People are taking notice.
Clean your
Um,
car, clean your social media too.
yeah, yeah, right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, I would imagine, let's say somebody's really pro one political party, especially in our DC area, and somebody else is
Yeah.
really pro like the other party. Are you making those decisions? You're like, hey, they're probably not going to be a good match. Like, you putting them somewhere else, you're not getting that detailed.
I'm not getting too politically detailed. My main criteria is do you have stable employment? Do you have good credit, and are you clean? Because those are three main things. Oh, and in personality fit as well.
What if somebody is misbehaving and they are, breaking rules? There might be house rules. I would imagine maybe there's house rules.
Yes.
What are your repercussions for getting them out?
Yeah, we actually have that written on the lease.
Okay.
So our lease states that if you break the rule, we'll just tell you verbally, just don't do that. You do it second time, you get a written warning. Third time, you're out.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get like I remember my daughter would get like these think sheets, right, when she was in elementary school. Think sheet. It's like the written warning, right? Think about what you're going to do. So, three strikes you're out policy is what you got, and that's written into your lease.
It's written to the lease, but the funny thing is, I'm I'm not the type that likes to boot people out. I always try to understand why they're making these problems or why these problems exist. So at because some of these guys they're great tenants, but things happen in life. I get it. You lose your job, you lose your family member, you lose your mom. Totally get it. I understand you're drinking now because of that, but talk to me about it so the so your roommates can understand what you're going through, so then they can be a little more understanding as well. So
Dude, you're like a therapist at this point.
yes.
There's the adult daycare that you're doing. So so that brings me to the temperament of the type of person that's going to run this business, because there's what I've learned through the years is that different types of investing lends itself to different types of temperaments. For
Yes.
instance, the Airbnb business is definitely a hotel business.
Oh,
So
for
you
sure.
have to have a concierge, let me serve you. And if that's not in you, then you got to get a co host to do it. You need the right temperament and the right heart in order to run that kind of business. That's why some people are like, yeah, that's not me. I'm going to go to the opposite, which is like storage and like I like your boxes. I only want to interact with your boxes. No toilets, right? And so that might be like the other side of that. This has a big human component, right? That's 150 people that you manage with 150 lives, with 150 stories, with 150 like in and out, lots of coordination, I would imagine. People coming, people going. You run all this with how many people?
It's
Is it
me,
just
my
you?
wife.
Okay.
We have a cleaning team. We have full-time contractors. We have full-time handymen all on staff.
Okay.
Sure that the whole thing is running, and obviously vendor relations where we can offload some of the harder stuff to these guys, and they'll take care of it right away.
Okay. Well, what's the piece that you love most? And what's the piece you dislike the most?
What I love most is the people. The
Okay.
people is the thing is when I invite you into one of our homes, I can imagine myself hanging out with you. That's
Mm.
the way I make that criteria. And I can imagine everyone else at home liking you too. So I have a lot of good relationships with virtually every single one of my tenants. Like I know their personal stories, I know where they're here, and we chat. And every time I would go to the property, we would chat like for an hour just in the living room, just seeing how life is. And that's the type of relationship I would want, you know, for with my tenants. It's like that personal one-on-one. And here's a little key thing too. If you're ever worried about, because one of the things every investor worried about, oh, what if my tenant doesn't pay, right? So imagine if you spend that time getting to know your tenants, they become your friend. You're never not going to pay like your best friend, right? So that's why that's important to me too, is to know everyone on an individual level so that when they do come on hard times, you're not the one, the investor isn't the one getting screwed over. It's like, oh, I got your back. I have your back and you have my back. That's the kind of relationship we have with each other.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? If you're listening to this right now and you're thinking about co-living and you don't like people, this may not be your model. This may not be your model, right? Obviously, Andy likes people, even though you're an engineer, right, by trade, but he likes people. Not saying that engineers don't like people, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so that there's that human component that is important to you, which is what's made you successful in this business. You also love advising your clients because you've got a bit of a teacher's heart. I've seen from just interacting with you through the years, teaching your clients about picking the right property, making sure that you're putting the right walls up, staging. What would you call that? Like retro? What do you call that? Like retrofitting the house to suit and maximize its sale. Let's go to that part. Like, what
Yeah.
are best practices around that to monetize the asset best?
Yeah. So a lot of my investors, they would say they get really excited for this business model, first of all. So they'll go on Zillow and they're like, oh, let's buy this house. You know, it looks good. I'm like, it's only going to make you $500 a month. That's not good for me. He's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, I really want it though. Okay, hey, how about this house? $1,000 a month. I'm like, I understand that $1,000 a month is exciting for you, but for me, you know, it doesn't. I wouldn't do that for $1,000 a month. I really care about their ROI as as you know someone that kind of helps people navigate into the space. It's like if you're gonna spend this money, I really want to make you. I want to make sure that you make a lot of money, not do all this work in five or $1,000. This is not worth it. So at least 15, if not 2,000. Even better if it's 3 grand net
Yeah.
every month. And yeah, so that piece of it is we have to be very selective on the asset. So it has to, so when I look at an asset, I don't look at, oh, this neighborhood makes $3,000 a month. That's market rent. I don't look at that. There's a completely different metric you look at. What it is not market rent, it is asset potential. That is a that is a thing that cannot be measured. You just have to know an asset, look at it. Look, what helps me a lot is the blueprint or the
Mm.
the floor plan. So I can look at I can just look at floor plans alone and figure out whether or not this is going to be a good deal or not. And by looking at the floor plan, I can tell how many rooms I can create. Like for example, in a rooming house, people don't care for like common areas that much. So why not convert that into income? Like a living room or like formal living and dining. Trust me, if you're working 12 hours a day, you're not going to sit there in your formal dining room, right? Sipping your wine like that and talking with your, like, doesn't happen. So why not
Yeah, the
convert it?
purpose of this place feels more like I just need a place to crash and sleep because I'm working.
That's it. That's all they need. Place to crash, clean, quiet roommates. That's all they want. So we try to cater to that exact, we renovate the home exactly to cater to that market.
Interesting. Do you have a preference, walkout basement versus walk up versus no walkout basement? Because that I would seem that I could probably sell that room at a premium or that basement at a premium if it's a walkout.
Yeah, so if we obviously walkouts are amazing, and obviously you have to also create the legal egresses if you make rooms
Sure.
down there, which is extra cost, but
Which, by the
it's
way,
worth
so you're doing that. You're doing that. You're making them into legal bedrooms in order to do it.
Yes, yes, we
Right.
make sure everything's done properly. So the
So
basement,
enclosing a loft, right? Would that be
mhm,
part of the play? Enclosing a loft area?
like a third level loft area,
Yeah.
we've done that too,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I
we've
would
added like
imagine.
a skylight in the roof so that they can have egress, actual egress.
What's the most that you've chopped up a house?
The most.
How many bedrooms and stayed
So
within the world of compliance?
the most I've ever done was 7.
Okay.
I didn't want to go beyond that,
You could
but
have, but you didn't want to.
I,
Yeah.
I I could go up to 10, but obviously it becomes pretty ridiculous at a certain point. So we cap it at 7, and even 7, it's a lot unless you renovate it in a way. So here's the thing that most people don't realize too. If the more people that you
Keep
have,
going.
so the thing is that what people don't realize when it comes to room by room business models is that you also have to account for how many personalities will be interacting with each other. And the fewer that number you get, the better, right? So for example, let's say you have a house and it's a rambler, right? It's one level, you have one kitchen, and you have 6 people that are all using that same kitchen. So they're all interacting with each other in one way or another. Now, that gets really tricky because if one person is bad, it's bad for the whole house. Like a couple people may want to vacate just because that one person is not cleaning up after themselves. The way that we mitigate this problem is that we section off the house so that this section here, only 2 people can interact with each other. The right section, only 3 people can interact with each other. The basement, it's just one person, for example, 6-person house, but we limit the amount of interaction that people have. So we would create a common laundry room with like a mail storage area, and then everyone can access that laundry room. Like nobody cares about the laundry room, but in terms of personal space, living room, kitchen, less interaction, the better. So to answer your question, Rob, how much of a house I've chopped up? I've chopped up the entire home before. We've gutted everything to the studs and redid the entire floor plan to make it so that there are as few interactions and maximizing the amount of rent possible.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and Andy, we'll edit this. I'm not sure that I think the thing died, so we'll make sure my team's editing it. We'll put you front and center and pin you.
Okay.
So you'll maximize the asset as much as possible for the ROI. Is it common to be able to get like $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month? Like, what's the average there? What have you found? And how many bedrooms does it take in our market?
So in this market, I aim for 1500 because I'm not going to invest money into something that doesn't make more than that. It just doesn't make sense financially. We also want to make sure that we have some kind of a buffer. So if you have one vacancy, it doesn't have a negative cash flow impact on you, right? You can have 1 or 2 drop, not a big deal. And we have that buffer in, but ideally, 1500 minimum to about 3000's excellent, excellent
Got it.
numbers.
Got it. Cool. Well, if you're in the DC metro market or any market, any I would say city market, because this will work in any growth area, then this type of model, this co-living model, is one that you would want to explore at a higher level. There's people doing this, everyday people doing this all over the country. And there's websites now dedicated to this. There's entire companies that are just dedicated to this, right? But I think there's an advantage of using somebody at the ground level, like an Andy, if you're in the Metro DC market, that understands all the nuances, the little things, the little differences, how to manage workflow with HOAs, and deal with tenants, and have a good overall relationship with people. So you got to find the right who's in your life in order to execute this play. Last question I have for you, Andy, just so I get a sense, like in our market, because this might give people a little bit of an idea of the rent to purchase ratio or the purchase to rent ratio. Average price of a house that you're buying, and then once you're able to kind of like retrofit it, like what are you collecting in rent? Just high level.
So average price we're looking at is cheapest as possible, right?
Yeah.
As many bedrooms as possible in the Northern Virginia area, but ideally 600K up to about 800K. I realize that once you get past 800K with the today's rates, with the crazy rates today, the mortgage gets too high, and then the people that are renting rooms, they want to save money. That's why they're renting rooms.
Yeah.
So I need more people just to catch up with that mortgage, and it's not ideal once you get beyond 800. But
Yeah.
600, 800, that's kind of that sweet spot where you can get a house that's big enough that we can retrofit these renovations to make it maximize profit. And I see anywhere between $6,400 and our largest account makes $9,800 a month.
Wow. Wow. And Andy, would you say that the average room is renting for about 1,000 a month?
Roughly $1,000 a month, but lately I've been doing something called co-living on steroids,
Okay.
where we don't just do bedrooms, we convert them into little micro studio apartments in the room itself. So you can essentially, so if let's say a room gets 1,000, we can now command 1,600, 1,700, 1,800. My highest one is 1,950 for one little studio. And imagine if you have like 4 or 5 of those, that's a big payday.
Does the studio have like a little kitchenette and
Yes,
its own bathroom? Is that what it is?
yes. It has a
Cool.
little kitchenette, it has its own bathroom. Sometimes we do a shared laundry area. Sometimes they have their own private laundry. It's pretty cool.
The kitchenettes wouldn't have a stove in them though, right? They would
No.
have, probably a microwave,
Yes.
a um, a little fridge, their own bathroom, their own
Yes.
laundry room, something like that. Okay, cool. That's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, Andy, dude, congratulations on building this out because I think you're one of our pioneers in this market. I'm sure there's people who've been doing it for a long time. I mean, I remember years ago, I met this one gentleman who his whole model was buy split units in Herndon, and he was just doing kind of like creating those split units into almost like a duplex, right? He was closing off because it was a split
Yeah.
level house, and he was commanding double the rent because it was two
Mhm.
families essentially living one up, one down, and that's how he made the numbers work. But I have yet to find anybody who's done it as successfully as you've done it here locally in this market. And so kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you
Awesome,
so much, Rob.
awesome job. Awesome job. And what's cool is you started from scratch, right?
Yeah.
You were just like with a hypothesis, an idea, and you were like, okay, I think I can do this. And you only started it 5 years ago. It's not like you
Yeah.
started this like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So what's the future look like for you? Is it continue doing this, continue finding one good asset to personally hold a year? Like, do you have any vision of where you want to take this or just keep doing more?
Yeah, so obviously scaling, and we have a property in almost every single city in Northern Virginia right now.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Scaling that operation even larger and kind of being a brand when it comes to furnished rentals in this area. Because the funny thing is, I get companies calling me now. They're like, "Oh, I know you're doing this. So you have a place for like 5 of our people." So I'm
Yeah, I
kind
would
of like that.
imagine like yeah, insurance companies, right? Like our
Yeah,
midterm insurance, like we have relationships with those insurance companies.
yeah. So
Well,
kind
Andy,
of like
what's the name of your business so everybody knows?
Acquisition LLC with an
Acquisition?
E. Yes. So
Acquisition.
it's a play on equity and acquisition. So
Love it.
acquire equity.
Totally got it. I totally got it. Acquisition, right? Acquisition.com?
AcquisitionLLC.com.
Okay, acquisitionllc.com. Well, Andy, thank you for sharing some time with us on the Income Flip podcast. If you've been listening, part of the purpose of us doing this is to open your mind on the different ways that people are making money in different markets. And if you're in a growth market, if you're in a market where the numbers just don't make sense, then possibly doing a model, a co-living model like the one Andy is doing here, is the one you should look at. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andy.
Great. Thanks, Rob.